Hey guys, my name is Mike, and I used to be a bouncer in the biggest nightclub in New York City. I did that for many years, and I worked at a couple other clubs as well. Uh, but I used to do that work, and now I work in the corporate world, and I make I make far more money than I used to back then, and I afford a wonderful lifestyle. I'm super successful, very proud of myself and the hard work that I took, literally from working in the streets, fucking sleeping in the streets, to living in a beautiful home, my dream house, driving my dream car. My life has just been fantastic. But let's talk about working undercover in the biggest nightclub in New York City. So I did that for about a year, and it was awesome work. I absolutely loved it. So normally you have your bouncers, right, who work at the front door. They work inside the club, and you're just, we would wear. I had some of us had body armor we'd wear underneath our clothes, and then we'd wear like a button-up shirt, a black button-up shirt, a black suit jacket, tactical pants usually, because we wanted to have we had extra pockets for some kind of equipment or whatever. And oftentimes you get in a lot of fights, and you don't want to have like suit pants on that can easily get ripped. So I wore Duluth has a line of like duty pants. It's like made out of heavy denim and khakis and stuff, and they're designed for you so they don't get torn. They're a little bit of water resistant, so you get a drink spilled on you or whatever. Those are pants I would wear, and then I had really nice like kind of police issue boots. The brand that I preferred to wear was Rocky. So Rocky makes an amazing boot. Point is that that's the outfit that I would normally wear when I was dressed for typical just straight uniform bouncer outfit. But when I went undercover, it was great. It was actually a lot of fun because I got to just go to, so I worked in a big EDM club. Let's just set that up first, right? So electronic dance music. So lots of, kids twirling glow sticks, popping mollies, being all high, and they wear freaking rainbow outfits and color their hair all kinds of crazy colors and black light, reflective clothing that would glow in the black lights and all that stuff. And that was generally what people would wear. So I went to Hot Topic and I bought all the cool shit that I'd always wanted to buy as a kid, So I went and bought all kinds of stupid party shirts. I bought some kind of like just crappy, cheap little jewelry to look cool. I forgot what kind of pants I bought. Probably just a pair of jeans because I knew I had to carry like a radio on me at least. And then I bought a pair of plugged earrings. So I have pierced ears, but I don't have like big hooped plug earrings. So I would buy fake ones because no cop or undercover uniformed officer would have plugged earrings. Cops don't walk around with plugs. So I thought that would help kind of with the deception that I would have to engage in. And so I also bought like a cheap wallet, and I'll explain why. Cheap wallet, and I don't think I had like a phone or anything. I think I just used my regular cell phone, but. The point is that I was going to go undercover into the club for a variety of reasons. So our club is big, right? We're talking 2,000 to 8,000 people a night in that club. You only had a handful of guards, 10 to 30 guards that would protect the club. When we had those big 8,000 people events, then we would bring in additional security, outside security to come help us, and we'd get up to 30 to 50 guards depending on how many, depending on who's coming, right? So if it's going to be big celebrities, big name rappers, then we would have to have better security. So, anyways, bought all this cool stuff. Was going to go work undercover in the club. Now, I would put on all my stupid shit, come into work, clock in, and then I'd go hang out outside with the crowds. And so I had all my stuff on. I had a radio, my security guard radio, whatever that was tied to my team. I would have that in my pocket, or kind of usually in the small of my back, kind of where you keep a pistol, just because it kind of blends in. You can't really see it that well, and nobody's going to be touching your back or anything like that. And then I had on a badge. It was it looked like an NYPD detective badge, and it just had a said on it New York City security guard officer, license guard, or whatever. And the point of having that is not because I'm a fake cop or something like that. It's so that I could actually identify myself when I needed to, because I just look like anybody else in a club. I look like a club goer, and there's no way to identify if I'm a security guard or not, right? If I'm working with the club or if I'm working with the NYPD, which is a lot of what I did. I was a liaison with them. They had their own undercover people in there sometimes, but most of the time, like 99% of the time, it was just uniformed officers. Every now and then we would have, an undercover guy go in there, we'd work together, but most of the time it was just, myself. And what I was doing going into that club is I was gonna try and catch people selling drugs, so drug dealers, or we had lots of situations where we had professional gangs or just individuals who were pickpockets. So I would try and catch pickpockets who are trying to steal phones or steal wallets or both. And that's why I had a fake wallet. I put like $1 or $2 in there. Nothing really in there, right? It's just I had the wallet and I had marked the marked bills, marked $1 or $2. They had like a Sharpie, in a spot, so we would know if money got stolen from there, we could identify it. And I would just like I said, hang out outside the club, and as the club started filling in and more people coming in, I'll go in and kind of blend in with the crowd and just hang out. Walk around, and and when people were selling drugs in a club, you would hear them. They would, they'd be walking around, some dude, and he'd be saying, Molly, Coke, Molly, weed, whatever, right? And if I heard somebody saying that, I would say, oh, yeah, Molly, yeah, sounds great. What do you got? The guy says, yeah, come with me. I got some of this or that, and and he'd tell me, yeah, I got these, I got that, and he would tell me. He'd show me the pills or something like that, or he'd say, you got the money, and I would say, no, let's go to the ATM. I'll go grab the money over there. So I would start walking with them to the ATM, and it would be the ATM, but generally I would start going more in the direction of where I knew one of my guys was located, and sometimes I wouldn't have a chance to radio it in because the drug dealer's with me or whatever. If the drug dealer was in front of me, I said, yeah, ATM's over there, walk in front of me. I would get behind him, I'll pull out my radio and say, hey guys, there's a guy in a white hoodie walking in front of me. We're heading across the I forgot, the ballroom bar left side or something. And the guys would be able to identify there's a dude in a white hoodie. They would see me because they would remember how I was dressed, it would be myself, and I would have on like a stupid fitted cap, there was an orange fitted cap or something, some easy way to identify me. So they would see me walking with a guy in front of me who's in a white hoodie, and I would get a whole team together. Or oftentimes I'm walking with him towards the ATM and I see a guard, and I'll grab the guard and say, hey, John, let's grab this guy, and then John, me, would boom, jump on this dude, grab his arms really quick so he can't start reaching in his pockets and dumping evidence. And we drag this guy off to the side somewhere, and we just pat him down and search him, see what he's got on him, see if he's got some drugs, money, and that's what we'd find oftentimes. You have one pocket or two would have, cash in it, and then he would have all these drugs stuffed in his socks or in his pockets or whatever. And that was it. And, we'd catch him, and we decide if we're going to prosecute or we're going to throw this guy out. There were times when guys would get, there were bouncers who would, rob the guys too, right? They'd be like, oh, this drug dealer's got a bunch of cash on him, he's a complete dick or whatever, and they'd just rob him. But I was the guy who said, hey, let's take him out. And let's take him down to police outside and get him arrested. So we get him outside, get him arrested, and get him booked. The funny thing is that we had lots of drug dealers who would beg us, please just take my money, let me go. You could take my money, take my drugs, let me go. But we'd be like, this guy's probably a felon. He's been arrested for this before, and now he's gonna go back to jail. And, we wanted people like that to go back to jail. We didn't want people in our club selling drugs and, making money off of the club. But also, jeopardizing the club's liquor license and all these other things, that could happen. If the club is known for being kind of a drug den and people are ODing all the time, and there's stories, there's a lot of reviews online on Reddit and Yelp that, oh yeah, this club is a great place to, to buy drugs. We didn't want to have that reputation. So we had to be really strict about that. So yeah, that's, that's just one story I have of us going undercover. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, for sure. So I'll share more stories with you guys later.